Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Board Budget Subcommittee meeting. Today's date is September 25th. This is for our regularly scheduled board meeting of September 28th. We are joined this evening by Trustee Prasad, Trustee Zhang, and our staff from Fremont Unified, including our new Associate Superintendent, Danny Hillman. At this time, I'll ask everybody on the call to enter their attendance into our chat. And as you're doing that, I will ask the group, has anybody received any public comment for today's meeting? I have not yet received any public comment.
None here.
Okay. James, anything from your side?
Nothing from my side.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we don't have any public comment to start the meeting. We will move into our meeting and I will turn it over to Trustee Prasad and Trustee Zhang to carry us through the agenda.
Sounds good. Actually, I'm trying to open the agenda. Here.
Yeah, we can stay. Can you see that? We can start with item 99.5.
Okay.
Which is authorized staff to enter into agreement with Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Program for Measure E. So can the staff give us a summarize of what is this about to the audience who are viewing the Zoom?
I'd be happy to. This is a pending agreement with FCMAT for a scope of review, which would include reviewing our governing board and our staff, our director of facilities, and how we have followed established policies, procedures, and internal controls regarding the approval of construction contracts and change orders, the review of Measure E construction invoices to determine what was billed, whether the established policies, procedures, and internal controls were followed regarding the approval of invoices and whether any overbilling may have occurred. Also to determine if project management costs billed by the primary construction firms are reasonable, and also to determine if any public contract bidding requirements violations occurred. The scope of this agreement with FCMAT is a result of a complaint that was filed to the ACOE, and the ACOE, being the Alameda County Office of Education, has asked that we partner with FCMAT for review of our practices and procedures. And so we're happy to do that. And we're bringing forward a contract for those services. The cost of the contract is $27,000.
All right. Thank you so much for the summary. And this is ensure the transparency and of our practice to the community and to the California Department.
Oh, well, this is just another measure in the steps that we've already taken. We have performance audits of our bond, and we've had an independent review of our bond program from Total School Solutions about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And so this will be another step, as Trustee Zhang pointed out, that does highlight a spirit of transparency and accountability for our community to make sure we're good stewards of public funds. And certainly if there's anything that's not being done to the highest standard of excellence, it's something we want to make sure that we're fixing in Fremont Unified. So we look forward to this partnership and to hearing what insight FCMAT may have for us as an organization.
Okay. So shall we move to the next one? 10.3. Staff to approve additional funding for non-public schools, non-public agencies for this coming school year. The number is 459,917. And
yeah, I can provide some information for that. So these are non-public agency agreements and non-public school placement agreements. So just over $230,000 of the non-public agency agreements cover services for students that would be delivered through a non-public agency, inclusive of paraeducator staffing, speech and language pathologists, and augmentative alternative communication assistive technology. And there's also a non-public school placement for, sorry, I've clicked on the same attachment twice. The non-public school placement is just over $328,000. And those are for placements in different programs. As a reminder, there are times when student needs based on an IEP require a more restrictive environment than our general education setting or our schools within Fremont can provide. And based on the decision of the IEP team as a whole, which includes the parents or guardians, a decision is made for placement in a non-public school. And we bring these costs forward for the board's approval.
Thank you. So as time goes along, we will see this kind of items often as needed.
That is correct. You'll see it as needed. We see the bulk of the costs in the beginning and the end of the year as we make initial placements or renew placements for the next year. But you will see this periodically throughout the year because as needs are identified for students, those placements will need to be board approved.
All right. So, Trustee Prasad, do you want to move to the next items?
Yeah, let's go to the next one. So this is the 10.4.
10.4 is an agreement for services for Robertson High School, our alternative high school, for mental health clinician services. The amount is $73,500, and it is, I believe, for up to 35 hours each week, not to exceed the cost listed in the item.
So what period is covered by this dollar amount if it is up to 35 hours not to exceed?
So this would generally be an agreement that we would put in place for the scope of the year. Okay. And the district and the agency would work on the staffing hours. Generally, in a general context, we try and staff that so that we can have those services throughout the whole year.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, basically it assumes that they are working 35 hours for the entire year. And if they work less than that, I mean, why the up to, I don't understand.
Because what we look at is there may be a week where they're required more. There may be a week that they're required less, but the language is written so that we do not exceed the dollar amount that's been budgeted.
Okay. As long as it averages out to 35 hours a week. Okay, and this thing is not covered by existing counselors, I suppose. That's right.
We do have existing counselors, but this would be supplemental to that. It would be an additional service. Mm-hmm. And this is also more focused on the MFT side of the work, the family therapist license, as opposed to the PPS, the traditional school counseling certification.
Okay, makes sense. Any other questions, Trustee Zhang, on this?
Oh, what is that? I think Bruce has raised a hand.
Yeah, I just want to note that it's being paid for out of restricted category funds specific for that purpose for that school.
Okay. Sounds good. Sorry, while I have the agenda open, I can't see the.
Oh, okay. So let me move to the next one. It's 10.5. Mm-hmm. Approve agreement for CCEIS service through collaborative learning solutions for $109,000. And this is CLS. Oh, this is still in the category of for the special students group. It's I think can superintendent give us a summary as well? It's budgeted.
Yes. So this is $109,000. This is for an agreement, as you've highlighted. we are disproportionate as a district as identified by the State Department of Education. And that disproportionality comes in 4 areas. And because we are disproportionate, we need to implement a plan in order to address that need. And this contract serves as an agreement for technical facilitators as we implement the plan over the next 27 months.
Mm-hmm. And this is covering the 4 areas, of the students.
So yes, we are found to be statistically disproportionate in our identification of white students in the eligibility category of OHI or other health impairment. We've also been identified as disproportionate in the number of white students that are identified in the eligibility category of emotional disturbance. Also in the identification of Hispanic students in the eligibility of SLD, specific learning disability, and in the identification of Hispanic students overall in special education.
Right. So did we have this budget last year? I know that we have received the discovery of this about 2 years ago. So we must have this program a year ago.
Yes, we do have it budgeted, and if I miss any of this, I'll ask the fiscal team to correct me, please. But as part of our identified status, we have a mandated set aside. And so we have set aside those funds each of the last 3 years because of this criteria.
Okay.
So this 27-month does it align with the school year, or why 27 months? Is that like 3 school year periods?
Yes, it's this and the next 2 school years preceding.
Okay. And all of that is covered by this $100,000? That
Yes.
seems very low for a 3-year plan.
I believe that it is, but we can ask our staff to clarify that before the board meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So 10.6 is approve expanded learning opportunity program contracts with Adventure Time and Bay Area Childcare. And this is budgeted. And this program is offered in several elementary schools. So let me see. Is this a new program? That's my first question. The second question is the rates will not exceed $10.80 per hour. And how do we, I believe that the students has already attended this program. Do we have the number of the students attending such program?
Well, I don't have the number of students attending the program in front of me this evening, but this is a new program, and you'll recall likely that we talked about the Extended Learning Opportunity Program, which is different than the Extended Learning Opportunity Grant. This was a program that the state put forward, and in essence, it sets forward a 9-hour window where students can be at school, and part of that is before and after school care. And so we've done some revisions of contracts with our before and after school care providers to ensure that we're able to provide the services that the state requires as part of this. And we are setting forward the adjustments in the contracts in order to do that with this agenda item. Now, you'll also likely recall that this is primarily focused on our unduplicated percentage students. And so we don't have the exact number yet, but as we get more and more individuals signing up, we'll be able to provide an update to the board on that in one of our board updates.
Okay, so I did get some feedback from the community. They said, based on their feedback, they don't see any criteria to enroll in the after school. They said any regular students appear to attend those programs. So can you find out whether we have set a strict criteria to select the students in need to go to this program? And also those students attending after school would be mixed with the regular students who usually go to after school anyway.
So all students can attend our after-school programs provided there's space and availability. The
But they have to
criteria,
pay for it, right? Regular students.
yes, the criteria in the state's program is set forward for unduplicated students, which means they qualify as either socioeconomically disadvantaged, foster youth and homeless,
Mm.
or I'm forgetting the other criteria off the top of my head in the moment. But
Not English learner, no.
I think it is English learner is the other criteria. And so we refer to them as unduplicated because we cannot count a student twice, for example, if they were a foster youth or homeless student or student without secure housing and an English language learner, we don't double count that criteria. And so that's the criteria set forward for this program, but it doesn't remove the ability for another student who is not an unduplicated student to go to our before or after school program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I would like to know the numbers. I guess it's students sign up as they go, but how do we advertise so that the needed students would know this program? So a final number would be good at a certain time.
Okay, we can work on providing you that number.
Okay, thank you. So now let's look at what?
The next one is 11.1, I believe.
11.1. Oh, okay.
So this disposition of personal property is just expenditure, so we don't need to discuss that here. We can go to the next one. So approval for this settlement. So $6,000. I suppose this is from a personal property damage.
Trustee Prasad, that item actually is not on the consent calendar any longer.
Okay.
So yes, we have the disposition of personal property, which is the surplus of a copier. And then we have 3 items on this section of the agenda, which all relate to designating Mr. Hillman as the new signee for the district.
Yes, well, I mean, so we should then we should go and officially welcome Mr. Hellman over here. Obviously we want to approve all of that. So there's no budget impact to that, so we can keep moving.
Well, we have to print all this bank checkbooks. I guess that would be the cost.
I doubt we have names on those checkbooks. So.
No? Okay, good.
Okay, very good. So then we can move on. So my agenda copy is a bit dated. So why don't you continue, Trustee Sang?
Okay, sure. 15.5, I've jumped to this one. Staff recommends board approval for purchase of Chromebooks. And it's the budget is from LCAP for 1.218 million. And this is a carryover of LCAP from last year of 700,000, and this year's 500 some, and together comes down to 1.2 million. Did I summarize right?
Absolutely accurate summary, Trustee Zhang.
Okay. And it's much needed, and it's still need because to replace the old one and also provide more sets for the at school usage, right?
That's correct. And this amount should get us just over about 5,000 Chromebooks.
Yeah, 5,000.
So, and there are a couple of questions. So this is I mean, it's great to have budget to buy these, and we'll still be short. Does the presentation actually related to this item? Will that cover our coverage and how short we'll still be if we were to have 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 type goals?
This item itself was not written to address that, so we could try and provide some baseline information for the board, but engaging in discussion beyond the approval of the amount would might run into trouble with the Brown Act, but we can try and provide some information for trustees in terms of what our total need might be after these 5,000 Chromebooks are purchased across the district.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, we can move on.
Let's see. Okay. 15.7, authorize staff to amend the agreement with DSA school inspector for the new construction and modernization project at Centerville Junior High School. And that amount is $322,000. And the budget from the Fund 21. And the description said it is based on the new requirement from the Division of State Architect. And therefore we need to, therefore we need to have a second time, inspection. But my question is, what are the new requirement? And is that specialized in the, it mentioned foundation system. And so does that mean with the new requirement, our other project is always going to have the additional cost?
No, I don't believe that a new requirement will mandate the additional costs for all of our projects. But in this case, what we note is, as we had with Thornton, the state agency itself, DSA, has required that we have an additional inspector of record from DSA. And so when we're required to have that additional inspector of record, we are required to cover the costs for that. And in order to do that, we contract with an independent agency, which happens to share a similar name. And this agency is DSA School Inspectors. And so other projects that have a high level of complexity and a lot of construction may require additional inspectors of record, but other projects that are more straightforward and maybe don't have as much complexity in the construction side may not require an additional one. So it's a facility by facility decision that happens for the Department of State Architecture.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. But I'm also looking at the attachment of Keystone Solutions. And so, if you look at the sheet, is a 6244 DSA School Inspector Amendments. But the data, unless I misread, it doesn't, it's basically the data captures the moment before this change, correct? Because if you see the total commitment of line 6244, the total committed is 647,000, and then remain budget is 537,000. So, and then you look at what shall I say? So what I'm understanding is now we have remaining budget of $537,000. So if we deduct the asked price of 322 at this meeting, does that mean if we approve, the end budget would be 215,000? How do I interpret the data? Bruce, I see you're nodding.
I think Mr. Hillman might have some insight on this.
I'm speaking very generically from my experience in other places, is that typically there are other types of inspections that are needed on a project. This is specifically for the vendor DSA inspections, but there could be other inspections.
Correct.
Total to the project. The attachment is probably totaling the other items that get logged under that 6244 item, but it's showing you what the dollar amount is currently and what it will be with this contract amendment, but it's not intended that all of the money in that line item go to this one vendor.
Well, that is true. So then you see the remaining budget of 537, that is without consideration of the current proposal. right?
I believe that is true,
Yeah,
but
that's
we
how I'm
will,
reading it.
we'll check with our staff and clarify for the board before the meeting.
Okay, if that's the case, we have, that I would understand. If it's proved, we have $200,000 left. Okay.
Yeah, because just to explain what committed is in those reports, committed means it's already been spent or it's been encumbered.
Mm-hmm.
So since you haven't approved it, it hasn't been spent and it hasn't been encumbered. So I suspect it's just going to come out of that remaining budget.
Oh,
Yeah, so this will be additional. So that's
wow.
my interpretation. So
Yeah.
but again, I mean, this is.
Yeah. But the good news is it's coming out of the remaining budget. So it's not causing the project to go over budget. It's just consuming some of the unspent budget.
Okay. Well, I probably have a question later on. Got it. So shall we move to 15.8?
Yeah.
Ratify the change orders within the agreement with Lathrop Construction Associates for the new construction and modernization project at Hopkins Jr. And this one is a lump sum of various change orders for a total of $1.5 million.
Yeah, so this is where I mean, I have a concern again, right? After so many directives to get these change orders to us, I mean, how come we have such a large one, such large change orders that went through? And I have two questions, right? Why did this happen? I mean, some of these happened in March of this year when, for the last 2 years at least, we've been asking for advance for the change orders to come to us. So what type of emergency were we trying to cover with this unapproved change orders? And then second question is, I mean, for small dollar amounts, right? So I think as a staff, you have you bring anything that is less than $100,000 into our consent calendar, and the limit for approvals is like $6,000 or something. So how can a single person sign off on such large 250K type change orders? Does it go through any kind of checks and balances at all before those get signed?
So it does go through checks and balances, and we will have our staff prepare some summary responses, Trustee Prasad, to that for the board meeting. And I think as we've highlighted, it's a balance that we try and reach, and we recognize that our staff can continue to improve on this, but it's the balance of trying to keep the project moving forward and getting the board the opportunity to weigh in on a change order as quickly as we can. A quick example of that would be, I was in communication today with an individual regarding a potential increased cost for a contract. And based on when we're dealing with schedules, that's going to be an item that could possibly come forward to the board in the next meeting, which would be October 12th. And this contract isn't specific to construction, but when we consider that time lapse, it may have a significant impact on the timing of our construction as well. So there's a lot to consider there, and I'll work with Bruce and our facilities team as Danny has just arrived to try and get an answer to some of those questions, because they're certainly valid and understandable questions. And as you mentioned, our approval is for approving contracts of up to, I think it's 23,500 and something, I think is the calculation. Now, these change orders are a little bit different, but perhaps Mr. Colby might have some additional insight, but we'll work on preparing responses to the questions that you've asked for the meeting.
Right. And I see that that's change order number 8. It was approved in March. So what happened between March and now end of September? 6 months later, we are getting it over here.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'll have to ask our facility staff to help us provide responses to that.
but we can look into the timing of that. I just wanted to make a note, the difference between the delegation of authority and these dollar amounts is these are already in the budget. The board has already approved a contingency budget and a contract to spend these funds, right? So it's not asking for additional funds. It's just showing how we're actually spending the funds that have already been approved to be spent.
Sure, but given that there were many of these that came to us after a long time, right? So for the last at least the last 18 months, the board has been very clear that we want to see these in advance. So and we understand that, well, the spur of the moment you need to get something done. So we don't want to stop that, but still 6 months going past between the change order number 8, which was a 250 kid plus amount. Why did it take 6 months? Even though this has been discussed in at least 10 board meetings in the last 2 years of me being on the board.
Duly noted. That's something that we'll have staff look into on the timing of these.
Sounds good. Thanks.
But one thing that I want to ask, so when we do the change order, and so who will be assigned to go to the site to check on, why we need a change order, and then what are the people in the team to approve this? I mean, to give us the PO. I mean, we must have a team to do this kind of thing, right?
Yes, Bruce, do you want to kind of talk through that process between our staff, the Vanner consultants, and then the final approval?
If you open one of the change orders and you go to the end of the change order, you'll see that there's signatures on it of people that can approve the change orders.
Right.
Right. And so it actually, just to know, on some of these change orders, they don't always start at that dollar amount. There's a lot of horse trading and kind of saying, who's, is that the right price? Right. Yeah. Is it, whose contingency is it? Is it our contingency? Is it the developer contingency? And then all the different people sign off on it. So the question would be, for the district, is who's going to be the district signer, on the end to sign off. In the past, it's been the director of facilities. In the absence of the director of facilities, myself, I signed off on one of them that's coming up because the director of facilities wasn't here. But it is a process with Associate Superintendent Hillman here. That's part of our review with FigMat. We'll be reviewing that process and work to see if there's any adjustments that we have to make to that.
I would suggest with any large amount, I don't know what is the minimum, number. Somebody has to go there or to see there is a change and then verify.
They go on every single one, whether it's 5,000 or 50,000 or 100. I mean, there's someone on site, right, that's going working on it, assessing the problem and working with this team. So there's the same sign off on every single one, no matter the dollar amount.
Okay, so then if you look at the keynote solutions summary, and so on the construction contingency, the total budget is 5.8 million, but then the total committed is 0. What does that mean? Do you see that? This is a construction contingency, right? This is under 5295, the object code, construction contingency. I mean, is this accurate?
Are you referring to 6295?
Yes, 6295. And why the total committed is 0?
And we'll check with our staff if that reflects the prior to board approval of the allocation or not. And we can put that in the Q&A for the board.
Okay. See, that's a big amount. Right now we see nothing. I mean, this has to be reflected correctly. Okay, please. All right. So let's go to 15.9. Authorize staff to ratify the agreement with Black Construction for district and developers contingency expenditure directives for the new construction and modernization project at Thornton Middle School. And this is $118,000. And this is different, is that directives? Various items.
So this, like the prior agenda item, is change orders. The amount is much different, but this is for Thornton, not Hopkins. And the total amount is, as you highlighted, Trustee Zhang, just around $118,000.
But then again, if you look at the Keystone Solutions, and there is no item of construction contingency.
And so we'll ask our staff to clarify that, and we'll put an update in the Q&A.
Because I would like to see all the items to be there, even it's like nothing. But now that we simply skipped some of the items, and especially this one is contingency, and then it's not even there. So I'd like to see those numbers correlate, or some sort of have to be reflected in a change. Okay, this one is missing. The contingency, but also the thing is, do you think it makes sense to put contingency into separate category? Like one is our district contingency, one is the developer's contingency. Does that make sense? Because right now, it's contingency is a lump sum, one item. So it's up to you guys.
Yeah, and that's a question that we can take advantage of our opportunity to work with FICMAT and get their input on. And there are examples where we've looked at our contingency funds versus the contractor's contingency. And so we can certainly pass that question forward and provide a response to the board.
Okay, I guess that's it for today.
Yeah, that was the last
And
one.
welcome
Yeah,
on
so,
board, Mr. Hillman.
We,
Oh, you already said that. Yes.
if I may, we do have two items that are financially related. One of them does have a budget impact, the other one doesn't, but just for transparency with our community. 1510 is the adoption of an associate superintendent salary schedule. And I want to clarify, the reason we have to have that is because CalPERS, which is the retirement agency for our classified staff, requires that all classified managers have an approved salary schedule. Now, that is different than our certificated managers. And when you think about our assistant or associate superintendents, the associate superintendent is the position in Fremont Unified that does not technically require a credential to do the work. And by credential, I mean a credential by the California Commission on Teaching Credentialing. Our associate superintendent, Mr. Hillman, happens to carry his teaching credential, his administrative credential. And so while he does have multiple credentials, it's not required in the position. And so we need to do this to remedy prior associate superintendents who have worked here, because when they retire, CalPERS will look to the district to say, what is the established salary schedule? And that's how we're bringing these forward. There's no fiscal impact to the district because it's not changing the salary or the wages. It's just identifying a document that says this is the salary schedule for 21-22 and for the current year 22-23.
Thank you for bringing it up. Now I remember that there is another one. It's 15.11, board member compensation. And yes.
That's correct. So board member compensation for our members of the audience that may not know, the Education Code sets forward a framework for compensation for Board of Education members or trustees. The reason it's prescribed as such in the Education Code is because board members are not employees of a school district. They are elected officials, and the size of the district has a direct correlation to the amount of the stipend received by board trustees. The Education Code also calls out that trustees may review their level of compensation and they may increase that but each time they do that, or each year, for example, they cannot exceed 5%. And so this is a item that is requested to come forward by our board. The current stipend is just over $911. And if increased by the 5%, it would move to just over $957. The net impact on our budget would be just over $3,280 annually.
Mm-hmm. Well, this one is simple, but I still could not figure out the math. So let's see that you said the dollar amount is 3,200. So that means that you do the difference between the current thing and then the increase to 957. I think the difference is like $45. And so I would time 5, we have 5 boards, and then time 12. But the number comes down to like 2,000 something, not 3,000. Even the simple math, I thought I don't get it right. Can somebody explain to me, or maybe later on in the Q&A, just to understand?
Yeah, we can have
Yeah,
our,
Yeah.
go ahead, James.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I could take that. I think when I was doing the analysis, no, you're right. I accidentally, I was looking at my spreadsheet that I sent over to the superintendent's office. I accidentally put 6 board members instead of 5.
There we go, James.
Yeah.
Now, okay.
Yeah. So it should be $2,735 would be the variance by doing that 5% increase.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's my mistake. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you. Okay, so that's the end of the agenda. And thank you so much for attending the meeting.
Yeah, I have a comment on this whole board compensation thing, but I'll hold my comment till the board meeting.
All right, we'll call the meeting adjourned.
Yep.
Thank you. We'll see
Thank
you on
you.
Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Yes.